Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I'd like to discuss how Rishi Sunak has created an unnecessary international row in an act of petulance, seemingly just because he's now determined to do the opposite of whatever Keir Starmer does, without even thinking about it. Another example of how Sunak has a sort of a paint-by-numbers approach to politics. He doesn't actually understand the basics. He doesn't understand it, and because of it, this latest bungled attempt has backfired as well. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So Rishi Sunak suddenly cancelled a meeting with the Greek Prime Minister. The reason he says is over the Greek position on the Elgin marbles or Parthenon marbles, depending on what you call them. So little bit of quick background to the politics before I get onto Sunak's latest piece of petulance. So in Britain, they're mostly called the Elgin marbles, ancient Greek sculptures that were brought to Britain by a chap called Elgin. They weren't technically stolen. Elgin had full authority to remove them. The sticking point that it wasn't the Greek authorities who gave permission. At the time, Greece had been invaded by the Ottoman Empire, so it was the occupying forces who gave the permission. So fast forward 200 years, and the situation for many people is this. The marbles are clearly of important cultural value to Greece. Permission from their removal came from people who weren't Greek and didn't care about Greece's cultural heritage. It might readily be supposed that had Greece not been occupied at the time, permission would not have been given. The British Museum often claims that it preserves cultural artefacts like this, but, they cause a certain amount of damage to them. And it's not like the Greek authorities would not. And the British Museum has got an awful lot of artefacts in storage, so it's not even like the space currently occupied by the marbles would be left bare. So there is growing opinion in the UK that the marbles should be repatriated. Indeed, a poll at the start of the year found that 53% thought that they should be repatriated to only 20% thinking not. So that's the background. So in the here and now, the British Museum had agreed to a loan deal with Greece. So as I understand it, there'd be a sort of round robin of Greek artefacts rotating between Britain and Greece. It's an arrangement that has the support of the British Museum, I would say the legal owners, but, Parliament, it's sort of a public body-ish. So Parliament has oversight over the museum. So it's not like politics is separated from it. But whatever the arguments that people have about the issue, it cannot possibly be said that they are of any British cultural significance. As such, as far as the UK government's concerned, like if there's a mutually agreeable loan arrangement, which is actually really common for museums, there's really no justification for interfering. And because this should be blindingly obvious, Keir Starmer has pretty much said the same thing. He said he would not stand in the way of the deal. Why would he? Given that the proposed arrangement is likely to start after the election and could easily be rescheduled to be, if not, it's essentially going to be up to Starmer's government to approve or block the move anyway, not Sunak's. And Starmer has said, well, I'm not going to block it. Why would I do that? Yet Sunak has not only weighed in with a counter position, but created an international row while he's doing it. The meeting with the Greek Prime Minister was cancelled just hours before it was due to take place. A more clumsy row you could barely imagine. Sunak not only decreed that the marbles are part of the permanent collection of the British Museum, but claims he cancelled the meeting because the Greek Prime Minister said that the marbles should return to Athens. But that has been long-standing Greek policy. It has been Greek policy as long as the marbles have not been in Greece, as you can imagine. It's not even like Sunak is fighting for anything here. Even something silly like rocks. UK law forbids the British Museum from surrendering any of its collection. It's a weird law that was created by jingoistic flag shaggers in the 60s, a time when they were still coming to terms with the loss of the empire. So it's not like the arrangement can be made permanent without the authority of Parliament anyway, because they'd have to repeal a law. And I don't think Labour will think it worth the political headache of doing so anytime soon, when they will have way more real problems to sort out. The last thing they want is to go on interviews and be asked, oh, what about these marbles and why are you repealing this law? They will want to talk about the way they're improving people's standard of living. So Labour are not going to fall into any little rows like that in the next few years. And if the Greek government are happy with this mutual loan arrangement as a short-term or medium-term solution, what is the problem? Museums loan all the time. The British Museum takes part in loan arrangements all the time. What is the reason why Sunak has suddenly decided to pick a fight over this one? I suspect because he's desperate for a wedge issue with Labour. They keep failing. You know, for quite a lot of last year after that Uxbridge by-election, oh, motoring's the thing. We will be on the side of the motorists. We will attack these 20-mile-an-hour zones. We're going to make it harder for councils to put 20-mile-an-hour zones in. It was going to be in the King's Speech. Wasn't in the King's Speech. Why not? Because they're really popular with Conservative voters. That's why. You know, so Sunak is desperately looking around. There needs to be something we can create as a wedge issue with Labour that chimes with the public. So he's just firing them all out. Keir Starmer says he's fine with the arrangement. So now Rishi Sunak has to say he isn't. He may have cancelled the meeting with Mitsotakis just to make sure it ended up being covered in the news. That's what I'm thinking. He cancelled the meeting just to get it in the news, didn't he? After all, Sunak saying he doesn't agree with a loan arrangement probably doesn't make significant headlines. Like, Prime Minister against museum loan arrangement. Oh my goodness me. That is not something anyone wants to read about. But creating an international row on an issue of sovereignty in it, oh, the Brexit media will love it, you would think. Didn't make their front pages though. But Sunak may still imagine he gets approving coverage in the gammon news outlets. You know, sticking it to an EU member over a non-issue which has links back to imperial times. Oh, they'll love that, he thought to himself. Oh, they'll love it. I'll do this. But there's also a suggestion that it's an act of petulance as well. Starmer made his position known during a meeting with the Greek Prime Minister. Now, I've seen some suggest that maybe Sunak is butthurt because the PM met with Starmer before Sunak. So it may be a combination of trying to invent a new culture war, or it may just be petulance that Starmer has yet again had a meeting with a world leader before Sunak. Remember, he also got upset when Starmer met President Macron a few days before Sunak did in September. Apparently, Sunak's none too happy about pictures of Starmer meeting the heads of government of our close allies. Again, a sign of his incredibly fragile ego. But whatever the reason, it's not going to win him votes domestically and just makes him look foolish. Like, if he created a diplomatic row just because he was upset that Starmer got the meeting first, well, that's just pathetic. And if this was a brainless attempt at just taking the opposite position to Starmer on as many issues as he can, in the hopes that one sticks with voters, well, that's equally pathetic. Apart from anything else, it would show that he's just taking Starmer's lead and then going in the opposite direction. But it still represents basing his policies on what Starmer does. It's like a little bit like a little kid aping their bigger brother, only this is sort of opposite day style. Perhaps he thinks it's something that will rally the right of his party to him, but I don't think it really is. They don't care. And the media don't seem to be making a big deal out of it for him. As I said, he probably imagined, the pro-Brexit press, they'll love this. They'll put me on the front pages as defending Britain. But if they have at all, I haven't read it in all of the outlets, the current position, like, the British position is that they should be in Greece anyway. That's like what the British public think. And although I'm speculating here, I wouldn't be surprised if the vast majority didn't have the same attitude as me. It's like, look, we've got a cost of living crisis here, right? Hospitals and schools are collapsing. Another business group has today talked about the damage that Brexit red tape is doing. It's not like there aren't major problems for the Prime Minister to be working on. But no, he wants to create a confected row about rocks. And in the meantime, the only photos circulating of the Greek Prime Minister in Britain are those with him shaking hands with Keir Starmer. What a PR coup that is for the Tories. Starmer meeting with a world leader and none of Sunak to override them. Because that's what you should be looking at. That's what would be the big news, the Prime Minister meeting him. So if you look at, Greek Prime Minister in Britain, you would see photos of Rishi Sunak shaking hands with him. No, now all you can see is Keir Starmer. And it hasn't, unless they have a change of heart later on today, it hasn't even worked to get his row in the press. I went straight to the Daily Express. I haven't read what different outlets have said about it yet, but I went straight to the Daily Express. The Daily Express are the most pro-Tory outlet of them all. They are the most blinded. They will follow the Tory line the most blindly, and they are Brexit central, right? So if there is any outlet that's going to say Rishi Sunak standing up for our sovereignty, it would be the Daily Express that does it. They didn't really seem interested in that line. Their headline included the accusation that Sunak was running scared. That is not exactly the sort of headline Sunak will have been looking for in the most pro-gammon of the mainstream media. And Dan Hodges of the Sunday Mail made a good point. If Sunak actually wants to make headway on asylum issues, because that's what he says, the big thing there, we need to deal with migration. No. Okay, he needs to work with Greece. Most people, the vast majority of people fleeing Africa to Europe hit Greece or Italy first. Of course they do. Cancelling a meeting with the Greek Prime Minister when you're claiming to be taking the migrant crisis seriously is just all sorts of backwards thinking. Just on every level. Not just the fact that this is a deeply cynical move from Sunak. Just strategically, it's wrong on every level. I don't know why the Tories find themselves so consistently 20 points behind in the polls. Do you? It's a mystery, isn't it? But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.